The broadcast of the regular meeting of the Policy and Government Oversight Committee will now begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Jenkins, and I am the chair of the Government Oversight Committee, the Policy and Government Oversight Committee, sorry. And I will call this regular committee meeting for Wednesday, September 30th to order. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting has remote participation by council members and city staff as authorized under the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Section 13D.021, due to the declared state of local public health emergency. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Rake.
Present.
Gordon.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
Cunningham.
Present.
Osman.
Here.
Goodman.
Present.
Kano.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Schrader.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
Ellison.
Present.
Chair Jenkins.
Here.
There are 13 members present.
Thank you, clerk, and let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. Colleagues, today we have 11 items on we actually have 12 items on today's agenda, and 11 of them are on our consent agenda, items 1 through 11. Item number 1 is an update to the 2021 City Council and Committees calendar to reflect the Council's current organization. Item number 2 is to set a public hearing for October 14th on the extension of CenturyLink cable television franchise ordinance. Item number 3 is the election judge and deputy city clerk appointments for the November 3rd general election. Item number 4 is a legal settlement related to the workers' compensation claims of Travis Payer. Item number 5 is the capital project closeout with appropriation and bond reallocation adjustments within the Municipal Building Commission's Capital Project Fund. Item number 6 is the legal settlement in the lawsuit Mohammed Ahmed versus the City of Minneapolis. Item number 7 is a contract amendment for support and maintenance of the city's compliance management system. Item number 8 is the legal settlement related to Andrew Brown v. Nicholas Scorata Jr. Item number 9 is the receipt of the 2020 second quarter financial report of select city funds. Item number 10 is the contract amendment with DataNet for the city's legislative information management system, or LIMS. Item number 11 is the acceptance of a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life for the 2020 elections. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull any of these items from today's consent agenda? I will take that as a no, and I will move approval of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Rake.
Yes.
Councilmember Gordon.
Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the consent agenda. Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Osmond,
Aye.
Goodman,
Aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That carries and the consent agenda is approved. Colleagues, our last item on our agenda, item number 12, is related to the retirement incentive plans for 2020 and 2021. Ms. Deb Kruger from our Human Resources Department is on hand to provide a brief update on this item, and I will invite Ms. Kruger to provide that presentation. Before you begin, Ms. Kruger, I do want to note that colleagues, we will just receive this presentation today and table the vote on this item until the next cycle, as there is still more work and consideration to be done by the Human Resources Department and other city departments. But I wanted to note that, and I'll turn the floor back over to Ms. Kruger.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice President Jenkins, council members. My name is Deb Kruger, and I am with the Human Resources Department. And I'm here today to present the staff recommendations related to offering a retirement plan, retirement incentive plan, pardon me, for city employees. Next slide, please. A quick overview, one of the proposed programs that was included in the 2020 amended budget was an early retirement incentive program. Over the last month, Human Resources and Finance staff have worked closely with city leadership and staff from the mayor's office to draft 3 resolutions, which are being proposed for adoption, that would offer a citywide retirement incentive plan to eligible employees in 2020. Next slide, please. I would say that the overarching purpose of offering a retirement incentive plan to city employees was primarily twofold. One has a financial aspect to it, and the other one is really around workforce flexibility. And from a financial perspective, while a retirement incentive is not required to have a balanced 2021 city budget, we're not depending upon a retirement incentive to get there. It does present an opportunity to realize additional salary cost savings that can be used to do a number of other things with the cost savings, such as lessen levies or increasing investments. So it provides some additional flexibility and options through savings. The incentive amount will be paid through 2020 cash reserves. And savings in personnel costs will be realized fairly shortly after a retirement separation date through the resulting vacancies. Next slide. And then the second purpose really was around allowing some additional workforce flexibility for city departments to strategically reorganize, restructure, continuous improvement efforts for efficiency and effectiveness of city operations, minimize any potential need for future layoffs should we need to go that route, again through having vacant positions through the number of employees who opt in to take the retirement incentive. And where vacancies need to be replaced, it offers the opportunity to further the city's commitment to diversifying the workforce. Next slide. The scope of the retirement incentive. So the goal was to offer the most robust eligibility plan that we could to city employees while considering the operational needs of the enterprise. And that was done to minimize any unintended consequences that could potentially compromise or sort of undermine the city's ability to continue to provide the best possible level of services to residents. And part of those one section of that unintended consequences is as we did some data analysis of the city workforce and eligibility percentages at varying levels, we did see a trend with high eligibility percentages that would affect specific departments or specific job functions within the city that really required a balanced plan approach to both meet the purpose of the retirement plan while minimizing those unintended consequences. And in doing that, we did speak with leaders in the departments that had those high eligibility numbers. They were consulted. We talked through plan options, plan designs, and their concerns and feedback are reflected in the recommended plans that we'll be going through in just a moment. From a workforce equity impact perspective, I have 4 pie charts. The first row, so upper left quadrant, shows the demographics of the city's current workforce, the total population at the city, by race. 70% of the city's workforce currently are white employees and 30% are BIPOC. And from a gender perspective, currently in the workforce, our workforce is made up of 70% males and 30% female. And then the smaller pie charts underneath those current demographic numbers would be the percent of those employee populations who would be eligible to take a retirement incentive. The demographics of the retirement eligibility for it would be, oh, I can't see my numbers here through the screen. Let me pull up my own PowerPoint presentation, excuse me. 77% of the white employee, 77% of the employees eligible to take a retirement incentive are white, and 23% of our BIPOC employees would be eligible. From a gender perspective, 68% of male employees, of the male employee, I'm sorry, 68% of the employees who are eligible under the retirement plan recommendation are male, and 32% are female. And then going into the plan design and the 3 specific plans that are being recommended for adoption, the common plan elements across 3 plans that we are recommending. The first common plan element is that charter department heads would be excluded from all retirement plans, and that eligibility is based on the following factors for employees effective or as of October 1st. As of October 1st, you could be an eligible employee if you have a combination of age plus years of full-time City of Minneapolis service that is equal to or greater the plan amount, which we will go into next. Must be have an employment status as of October 1st as a regular or seasonal employee. So that excludes like temporary employees by and large, AC seasonal non-permanent employees. And then you must be a full-time equivalent employee, someone who works a standard 32 hours a week or greater. The incentive amount to be offered for all the plans is $30,000. That is inclusive of a $20,000 cash payout and $10,000 deposited in a healthcare savings plan. And again, across 2 of the 3 plans, the retirement separation date for most of the eligible employees would be no later than December 31st, except for a small section of public works employees who support primarily winter operations in the city. And we'll talk about that when we get to Plan 3. So Plan 1, again, to have this balanced approach to offering, having the largest, most robust plan for employees at the city while balancing that with the operational needs of departments. We designed 2 rules of eligibility. Plan 1 would be a rule of 75, so that would be any employee whose age plus years of full-time city service is equal to or greater than 75, and would be available to those eligible employees in most of the city departments. There are a few exceptions. This plan would not be available to sworn employees in the police department or the fire department, employees in the 911 Emergency Communications Center, or employees in the Public Works Department. And eligibility factors are eligibility numbers under this plan are approximately 360 employees. Plan 2, we call rule of 80, and this would be age plus years of full-time city service that is equal to or greater than 80. And it would be available to the following eligible employees: the sworn employees in the Minneapolis Police Department, sworn employees in the Minneapolis Fire Department, all employees in the 911 Emergency Communications Department, and all employees in the Public Works Department who are not specifically identified in the next plan. And that would encompass an eligibility of approximately 140 employees. And then Plan 3 is a small subsection, again, rule of 80, specifically for a section, an employee grouping in the Public Works Department. So again, it would be age plus years of full-time city service that is equal to or greater than 80. And it's available only to the following eligible Public Works employees who work in specific divisions or job classifications as of November 29th. It would be all employees in the Division of Transportation Maintenance and Repair, all employees in the Division of Fleet Services, all employees in the Traffic and Parking Services area of the towing and impound lot, and then all employees who are in the job title of either Public Works Service Worker 1 or Public Service Worker 2. And that would encompass approximately 270 employees who would be eligible. The retirement date, and this is really the reason why we separated this one out, it would have a different retirement date. Separation date would be no earlier than April 14th and no later than April 30th. And the reason for that later separation date is to ensure that the city has adequate staffing levels during the winter snow and ice removal operation timeframe. The employees who work in those Public Works divisions primarily support winter operations. In terms of communications and timeline, if this were, so this will change slightly, I'm sorry, but this has changed a little bit since Madam Chair has talked about. We'll defer this for another cycle. Otherwise, it would have gone to council Friday for adoption. So we'll just move this back 2 weeks. And then as soon as that gets adopted by council, we would begin all employee communications, including FAQs and other retirement incentive information that would be posted online. We will also then shortly thereafter plan to mail retirement plan documents to all eligible Plan 1 and Plan 2 employees' home addresses via U.S. mail. That will be our formal notification. Is via U.S. mail. And then in October and November, we plan to hold a number of informational sessions with eligible employees. And again, we'll have to push these dates out 2 weeks if we're going to delay approval. So now we'd be looking at early to mid-December. That we have to allow employees 45 days by federal law to consider the plan, consult an attorney, and then at that point we can allow them to fill out and send in their participation form. Again, that would be for plans 1 and 2. And then of course we'd have a separation date. Again, 2 weeks out, so now we'd be looking at mid-December through the 1st week of January for a separation date. And then really this next set of, and I believe that this set of the timeline, which is specific to Plan 3 with that later separation date, would still follow the same timeline. No later than February 8, we would be sending plan documents to all eligible Plan 3 employees' homes via U.S. mail. And then in February and March, again, holding those informational sessions with eligible employees to answer whatever questions they may have. And then between the dates of March 29th and April 9th, they would can submit their participation form to Human Resources with the separation time period between no earlier than April 14th, no later than April 30th. I believe that's the last slide. And that concludes my presentation. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Palmisano and then Gordon, and I will put myself in queue as well. So Councilmember Palmisano, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was gonna kind of take it for others that maybe are listening to this too, and just express appreciation for this work. I think that retirement incentives are extremely complex, particularly in our government environment, and I really wanted to appreciate HR in working on these and considering different aspects of them and trying to tailor some kind of a program as to what that would suit our needs and also do right by our city employees. So thank you for this work effort. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you much. I also appreciate the efforts, and it's challenging to predict what might happen with certain incentives. When I was looking at this the first time, I kind of panicked a little bit, thinking about the potential for so many people with so much experience to be leaving the city. But I don't know that would necessarily happen, especially if we look at who's taken advantage of incentives in the past. The one thing I think might be nice that we can get a little more information out of in the weeks ahead is some feedback from the rank and file or from our labor organizations about what they think about this, because it would be good to hear that input too as we're moving forward. And I understand this is a pretty balanced and cautious approach, and look forward to taking it up again later, and really appreciate all the work that went into it, because I know there was a lot to figure it out, and then there were modifications that were made to try to come up with the best package, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilmember Gordon. Councilmember Cunningham, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I just agree with Councilmember Palmisano's gratitude. Thanks.
Council President Bender, and then I will go after.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wasn't clear what will be happening between now and when this comes back for approval. And were there concerns expressed by any stakeholders or policymakers, or what is the additional work that's happening, just so we can track, you know, what's happening between now and approval?
Sorry about that. I had to find my mute. Madam Chair, Councilmember Bender, it's twofold. I think that, well, the first and primary reason was it came to our attention fairly late that there was some conflicting collective bargaining agreement language in one of our collective bargaining agreements that already had a retirement incentive in there that we hadn't taken into account. And we're working through a resolution with the labor rep. I'm actually working on a letter of agreement right now.
Got it. Thank you.
And thank you, Madam President. That was my exact question, but I will add my own gratitude for this work. It's really challenging work, and it's complex and complicated, as well as challenging in that, you know, we are asking our valued employees to consider these incentives as a means to help us address some of our deep and significant budget shortfalls. So I just want to appreciate everybody for their efforts here. Thank you, Ms. Kruger, for that presentation. And we will, and I'm not sure if we need a council action to table this item till the next cycle. Clerk, can you provide a response?
I understand the motion is to continue this item to the next POGO meeting scheduled for October 14.
Thank you so much. So I will move that we table this item until our next regularly scheduled POGO meeting, which is October 14th. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Schrader.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Allison.
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
And that item passes, and this item will be taken up at our next POGO meeting. Colleagues, before we adjourn this meeting, I did want to announce that you should have received in your inboxes a resolution honoring the service of Senator Jeffrey Hayden, former City Council policy aide, former state representative, and currently state senator, who will be leaving his post in January as a new senator will be elected and sworn in. And so we want to honor his contributions to the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota with the resolution. So that will be coming before us on Friday's council agenda. I also wanted to add that we had hoped to bring a resolution today that would recognize a Truth and Reconciliation initiative at the city of Minneapolis, and we will be bringing that forward at the next POGO meeting. The objective of the reconciliation and transformational race and healing process is to really begin implementing specific solutions to the specific harms that created and perpetuate racial disparities in our community, with a prioritized focus on healing with historically Black, American descendants of slavery, and American Indian indigenous communities. This will require, but is not limited to, work that will deepen trust and understanding between the city enterprise, the city's residents, and city employees through the identification, restitution, recompense, and reconciliation for racial injustices that have disproportionately yielded a negative impact on our communities. We anticipate that the recompense and reconciliation to result in policy, programmatic, and resource changes that have the long-term probability of facilitating economic inclusion and reducing or eliminating racial disparities for the aforementioned identified groups. While the reconciliation and transformational racial healing process will strive to engage all Minneapolis residents and staff of the city of Minneapolis, priority will be given to those individuals who experience the most significant disparities as a result of historic and pervasive city policies and practices. These groups are disproportionately historically Black, American descendants of slavery, and American Indian and Indigenous peoples. As the Truth and Reconciliation process focuses on the racial injustices that stem from structural and institutional racism, this process will be ongoing and therefore not tied to decision-making the city must do in order to facilitate the peaceful and efficient operations of city services. Community engagement for reimagining community safety remains the near-term priority, and that work is underway. The Truth and Reconciliation process only begins once the city takes and communicates concrete action in police reform and investments in community safety and healing as reflected in the work of the Office of Police Conduct Oversight, the 911 Work Group, Recast Minneapolis, the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, 38th Street Thrive, Human Trafficking, the Office of Violence Prevention, and other related efforts. A separate external advisory body, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has a specific task, a specific charge of advising the city in the design and implementation process. And this group will include grass tops, grassroots, and other representative voices from BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, and other historically marginalized communities with an emphasis on representation from historically Black, American descendants of slavery, and American Indian and Indigenous communities. So, you know, I wanted to bring that up. We will be having the resolution presented at our next POGO meeting and can engage in deep and substantive conversation once that is presented, but really wanted to make sure that my colleagues were aware of this as well as the public in a manner in which we can all get together in this regularly scheduled and noticed meeting, and look forward to any really deepened conversation next week. But if there are any questions or comments today, we can certainly try to address those as well. And if not, we have no further business on our agenda, and I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.